I want to tell you about a moment I had. Not a dramatic moment, not a fight, not a, none of that. No Jerry Springer type of stuff or no cheaters confrontation. But it changed everything. I was telling a man that I was dating a couple of years ago about what I needed, and his response to me was very dismissive. You know what I'm saying? It felt like I was being minimized, like I was asking for too much again, and it changed everything. Instead of even like hearing what he said, I feel like for a moment I kind of zoned out and I was just asking myself questions like, Cynthia, when did you become that girl to tolerate this ish? When did you become a girl where your standards, your boundaries, your non-negotiables really became negotiable? When did you become a girl that you essentially are sacrificing yourself for the relationship? Meanwhile, he is not. You bring a need to him and he just talks you out of it and you swallow it. You adapt, you absorb it. And that's what I want to talk about today. This is for the women that are like questioning, scratching your head like, what? How did I become the girl that tolerates disrespect in my relationship? When did I become the girl that all of a sudden he feels comfortable hugging other women around me? When did I become the girl where he feels comfortable criticizing me and humiliating me in front of his friends? When did I become the girl that I'm okay with being a secret and being in a situationship? When did I become the girl? All right. If you're new here, welcome to Heal the New Sexy, where I discuss all things healing, self-love, relationships. My name is Cynthia. I am a licensed therapist and coach. Not only am I going to teach you or talk to you about when you became that girl to tolerate that ish, I got some science and some research. And so I'm going to be looking down because the articles that I pulled will be in the description, but I also want to read them to you. Okay. So let me tell you this, there is a name for what happened in your relationship. It's called tolerance creep, and it follows a predictable pattern. Now, let me give you a picture first. I hope Peter ain't watching. Peter, if you watch it, go ahead and log off because I don't want you coming for me, okay? Listen, if you've ever attempted to cook a frog, I never have, but this is what I heard, so I'm gonna share it with you, okay? You cannot put a frog in boiling hot water. If you do, from my understanding, frog will jump out. You put the frog in a pot of water that the frog is familiar with, and then you eventually turn up the heat to the point where the frog dies. That is tolerance creep, okay? There is a science behind this. It is a psychological pattern that research have traced with precision. In clinical literature, it is called the normalization of mistreatment. I'm going to talk about how it works. In the membership, I have a video talking about fawning. Many of us fawn or have learned how to fawn in our romantic relationships. What is that? That means we give pleasant behavior for mistreatment in hopes that we will win the person over. Now, in the beginning of your relationship, you may have a reference point. This is a baseline of what you consider acceptable. Your boundaries, your standards, your non-negotiables. So when something happens, maybe he's short in speaking to you, you say, hey, I don't like that. I don't like it when you're short when I ask you a question. Now, he could do one or two things. He could apologize, hey, baby, I'm so sorry. Then the relationship returns to baseline. Or he can minimize it. Oh, it just wasn't a big deal. And you let it go. Or there could be a conflict because he may say, it's not a big deal. You say, it absolutely is a big deal. And I'm not going to tolerate you talking to me short. Then there's a resolution. He says, you know, you're right. I'm sorry. And you move on. And the behavior, whatever it was, for this example, talking short, may happen again. And again, you notice it. And again, you either respond or you absorb it. And again, you move on. Until one day, and this is what nobody tells you, you stop noticing it. Not because you forgave, not because you haven't worked through it, but because a new baseline has been created in your relationship. You have become more tolerant. This is the thing, especially for my girlies that have trauma in your childhood or any traumatic experience before this relationship. If you have to use the same skills that got you through that traumatic event in your relationship, then the relationship isn't healthy for you. If you have trauma, your baseline is very different. Your tolerance is very different. And you may tolerate more in relationships than someone who doesn't have trauma. Girls who have trauma and attachment issues have to date differently. Now let's talk about the research. This is from the Journal of Social and Personal Relationships, and all of this will be in the description. Women in relationships with repeated disrespect develop narratives that normalize the behavior. You may have even normalized the abuse that you experienced as a child. You attribute it to his stress, his past, his character flaws, right? And you may think that you can love him through it. The research found that this is not delusion. It is a mean-making strategy in the absence of a framework that tells you are allowed to require different treatment. If the first people in your life mistreated you, then you will accept mistreatment in your romantic relationships. And you should not accept mistreatment in your romantic relationships. And let me tell you this as well. There's a lot of information, especially towards women, that we should accept mistreatment. This marriage makes you holy and not happy. This relationships are supposed to be hard. That is not true. That is not true. And if you think that you can love him into changing and becoming another person, it requires love and also a framework, which I'm going to introduce later. Here's the part of science that I think that's most important for you to understand, right? This has to do with belonging. You may say, okay, wait a minute, Cynthia. We first started with disrespect, right? I normalized the behavior. I'm trying to love him. I'm trying to be accepting, but why am I doing that? I'm going to tell you why. The need to belong is so fundamental, this is from the Psychological Bulletin, to human survival that we will tolerate significant mistreatment to preserve attachment. That also has to do with fawning. Because if the person that is providing care for you, or they're meeting your needs, right? Your parent was supposed to meet a need. You fawn so that it makes it more bearable. So here you are in a romantic relationship and you're like, if I love, if I perform, if I give him more sex, if I do all the things he tells me to do, then I will have a healthy relationship, versus addressing the disrespect. Why is your response to disrespect more love, more care, more attention? Why is it more? Work. Why is that? Why is it more emotional labor and physical labor? Because as women, we have been conditioned to provide that, okay? Critically, the pain of social exclusion activates the exact same neural pathways as physical pain. So he gets quiet, he gets distant, it activates you. The brain is not being dramatic when leaving feels unbearable. It's treating the loss of that relationship as a survival threat. This is also why women will stay in a relationship. I forget what number of times, I want to say 7, but I can't recall off the top of my head. Like, it takes 7 times for a woman to leave an abusive relationship. You're saying leave, and you don't understand why. Here's the science behind it. It's treating loss of that relationship as a survival threat, because for most of human history, it was. That means staying, absorbing, adjusting, making yourself smaller to keep the relationship intact is not a weakness. It is your brain doing exactly what it's designed to do. Protect the attachment at significant personal cost, because the cost of losing the attachment is registered as potentially worse. And that's why even as a society, they view singlehood being worse than being in an unhealthy relationship. And we as women have been conditioned that you rather be in a relationship than be single, because being a single woman is being seen as worse. And that's also why many people cannot understand why you would choose singleness over being in a relationship, because we have been conditioned. Now, at one point, of course, we needed, I don't want to say, okay, let me get my words together, because I don't want to minimize partnership. Our survival at one time did require community, and we still need community. And romantic love is still necessary, all right? I don't want to say it's not. But that's why many people don't understand why women may say, oh, I'm going to be single for the rest of my life. I'm not going to be in a relationship. Now, some women, and I see you sometimes in the comments, you talk about because of the patterns, because of things that happen, because you don't have the skills for relationships, you're deciding to opt out. For you, I would say, schedule a coaching call with me. Let's work through that. I don't want you to fear being in a relationship because you don't have skills. Skills is something that you can gain. Now let's talk about what the research on disrespect actually says that it does to a relationship. So this is a 14-year study by Gottman. It says contempt, defined as disrespect, mockery, eye rolling, and belittling, is the single strongest predictor of relationship dissolution. John Gottman calls it the sulfuric acid of relationship. Even one expression of contempt per week in a 14-year study was predictive of eventual separation, not because one moment destroys everything, but because contempt communicates, I see you as beneath me, and over time that communication rewires how both partners understand and experience the relationship. So you see his cell phone going off in the middle of the night, or you see him take his cell phone and he puts it down like this. You go to his cell phone, he changes the passcode. So you are now feeling disrespected, and this happens over a period of time. You go out to lunch or you go out to dinner, and this is supposed to be a time for you guys to reconnect, but you see him eyeing the waitress and eyeing other women in front of you. This is saying one act of contempt, one act of disrespect corrodes the relationship, only one. The eye roll when you bring something up, the dismissive, you're overreacting, the way he summarizes your concern in a sentence that misses the entire point and then acts like he addressed it, the weaponized incompetence. That's what's happening in a lot of relationships right now, and that's why you're watching this video. Now, one act of disrespect, according to the research, requires approximately 5 acts of kindness to restore the relational equilibrium. The saying, the good outweighs the bad, the research is saying that's not true. Because one act of disrespect requires 5 acts of kindness. Now, let's not get started on infidelity. Let's not get started on physical abuse. Let's not talk about emotional abuse, because many of us have been told if he's not beating you or cheating on you, then you can work through it. That's not what the research says. And one thing that frustrates me is this narrative. Do you know how much? Yes, you do, because you're watching this video. How much you tolerate, how much you swallow between being punched, between him engaging, and I'm talking to the ladies because 98% of my viewers are women, before he cheats. How much have you been watching and absorbing and swallowing? Just taking it in. It says for one act of disrespect, 5 acts of kindness are needed to restore it. In long-term relationships where disrespect has become normalized, the deficit accumulates faster than it can be replenished. The couple may have genuinely good days, but those good days are not doing the remediation work. Those good days are doing remediation work, not growth work. So the relationship is not growing. So if you've ever been in a long-term relationship, or maybe you are now, and you feel like you're not growing, it's because when you have the good days, they're remediating it. You're not moving forward. So the relationship is spending its resources on recovery rather than development. The good days are not proof that the relationship is healthy. In many days, the good days is proof that the relationship is trying to recover from the bad days, and that's a different thing. So let's talk about what chronic disrespect does to you. I want to name what chronic low-level disrespect does to a person receiving it, not the relationship, to you as an individual. How a partner perceives your regard for them specifically, and this is in the research by Murray, Holmes, and Griffin, whether they feel respected directly regulates their attachment security. So the more respected you feel in the relationship, the more secure and attached you feel in it. When there is disrespect, when you are dismissed, when there is lack of care, lack of concern, when your needs are minimized, that causes you to engage in self-protection strategies, such as emotional withdrawal. Hold that. There are conversations about women calling sex their wifely duties. And I see men sometimes in the comments talk about, why do you see that as a wifely duty? If a woman is experiencing chronic disrespect in her relationship, she is not open for physical intimacy. It becomes a duty. It doesn't become a wonderful experience where she is sharing her body with the love of her life. It becomes a box that she has to check. And what I feel and see is problematic is that there are some men that know and are aware, and they will not change their behavior. You as a woman need to understand what it is that you need to feel emotionally invested in the relationship. Okay? So emotional withdrawal, reduced vulnerability, resentment, and what researchers call protective devaluation, unconsciously lowering your investment in the relationship to reduce the risk of further hurt. So what this looks like in real life, you stop bringing up things because you know he's going to be dismissive. You get quiet. You may even start to engage in more activities on your own because you used to wait on him. Now you don't wait on him anymore because you know he's going to tell you no. If you were a very sexual woman, you no longer want to engage in sex. If you were the bubbly woman, you had a good sense of humor, or you just love to talk to him. Now you no longer do those things. If you used to love to snuggle with him and be close to him and spend time with him, you're no longer doing that. You stop being the version of yourself that you were at the beginning, the one who was curious and open and fully there. And then he says you've changed. And there are some men, right, that this is the perfect opportunity that when he says you change, for you to have a conversation with him about what you are experiencing. Now, there are some men that once they hear what you need, they're going to give it to you. Why? Because they love you and they want a healthy relationship with you. There are other men that are going to hear what you say and still demand that you perform how you were before, because that man doesn't care about you. A man who demands access to you without doing the work is a man who wants the benefit of you. He doesn't want you. And I'm going to do a video about men being taught, if they, I don't know how I'm going to title it, but in there I'm going to talk about men needing to be safe to love. Because a man who just is demanding you be who he wants you to be without providing emotional safety and security, he's not a safe man. He's not. So everything that I described in this video as it relates to the tolerance creep, what disrespect does to you over time, is what I'm going to cover in the Girls Need Boundaries course. That course is going to be on July the 18th. I have a coupon code, 15 off, 15 off, and there are only 25 slots, but 7 of those slots have been taken. So there's only 18 slots for the course on July the 18th at 1 p.m. Eastern. If you're like, I can't attend it, but I would love the replay, go ahead and register so that you can get a copy of the replay, because those that register will get a copy of the replay. So let's talk about why limits are not optional in long-term relationships. The most dangerous myth about long-term relationships is that limits become less necessary over time. I don't know if I said this before, but that's why you'll see on these podcasts where a man will be like, would you leave your husband if he cheated? And the lady says yes. The man's like, man, you're not going to leave him after 20 years, after you built this, and You're not going to leave him over some cheating, because he believes the longer I'm in the relationship, the less I can respect you. And so that's why at certain stages of the relationship, one partner may feel like they can be absent. They don't have to be responsive to your needs. But that's not the truth. The idea that limits are for new relationships is a myth. In long-term relationships, a marriage, a multi-year partnership, you need limits. It's not just for the beginning. You teach a man how to treat you. Everything comes with a manual. I always say that. Everything comes with a manual. You are the manual for you. Limits are not training wheels that you remove once the relationship is established. They are the ongoing structure that protects the dignity of both people. Women are taught not to have limits in relationships. You are taught to give your all in a relationship. You're taught, right? First of all, you don't pursue him. You don't shoot your shot. Then you follow his lead. You don't have conversations with him as it relates to when it is you want to be married. You're essentially supposed to go with the flow. That's what you're supposed to do. Don't tell him what you need, what you want, what you desire, because if you do, then he'll become that only to play you. But the truth is, a man who has his heart set on playing you will play you, whether you know it, whether you tell him how to play you, or whether you don't. Because that is his character issue. That's not you doing something wrong. Women need to communicate early on in a relationship. You need to essentially let him know that you are willing to have conversations, even courageous conversations, necessary conversations as it relates to your relationship. So let me talk about respect in relationship, not respect, forgive me. Let me talk about limits in relationship based off of the research. Neff and Carney, this is from 2005, in a longitudinal study of couples over time, researchers found that relationship satisfaction was most strongly predicted not by initial levels of lover compatibility, because this is the thing that's being pushed online. Love, love, love. If you love a person, love. Listen, you need love and a framework. You need love and limits. We need love and clarity. We need love and you teaching him how to treat you. Couples who reported consistently feeling respected by their partner maintain higher satisfaction. I know there's that book about men need respect, women need love. Nope, we need respect. They had higher satisfaction, lower conflict, and greater stability over the years. The feeling of being respected did not develop automatically over time. It required ongoing behavior that demonstrated it, that communicated it. So if you say something to him, hey, it's not time now. I don't want to talk about it. Why are you always bringing this up? Why are you always nagging me? If that is what's happening, you're feeling disrespected. And what's going to happen based off of Gottman is that is going to lead to the relationship breaking up. But this is also saying that when there is respect, mutual respect in the relationship, there's higher levels of satisfaction and lower conflict. What the research is telling you is that respect is not a given in a long relationship. It is not something that increases automatically with time and love. It is something that has to be actively maintained, and the way it gets maintained is through a structure, explicit or implicit, that communicates, I will not accept being treated this way. Not in year 1, not in year 5, not in year 15. I remember one of my coworkers, he's married. He's been married, I think this is year 21. And he loves banana pudding. And there was a young lady, I'm calling her young lady, I don't know her age, who made him a banana pudding. He took it home. His wife said, he was like, I didn't know that was an issue. I said, yeah, you don't bring no other woman's cooking home to your house. And on top of that, homegirl, she should have known that was disrespectful. Listen, communicated it, and now he don't accept no food from nobody. Okay, no, listen, something simple as that. So let's talk about what limits in a long-term relationship actually look like. I want to be practical here. It is the practice of noticing in real time when you are adjusting yourself to manage his comfort instead of expressing your own reality, and choosing in that moment to express your reality instead. That makes me feel uncomfortable. I don't like it when you're short with me. When you said that in front of your friends, I felt like you were humiliating me. I know that you may find other women attractive, but I ask that you manage how you are gawking at them in front of me, because I find men attractive too. Okay? Especially with this World Cup going on. It's a lot. What's his name? Messi? Yeah, it's about to be real messy when we see. Not like that, okay? But you communicating what it is that you need. Babe. I need, as it relates to this next weekend, I need for you to be with the kids so that I can go do a pottery class. The past couple of weekends you've been out, you've been spending time with your boys, but I need this weekend myself. And if he's like, oh, well, I had something planned, I understand, sweets, but I need it for it to be my weekend. And I would appreciate it that before you make plans specifically for the weekend, that you check in with me to ensure there's not something that I want to do as an individual or as it relates to the two of us or the four of us as a family. A limit in a long-term relationship is not a threat. So it's not, if you keep doing this, then I will leave. That's an ultimatum. A limit is, this is how I would like you to treat me in the relationship. A limit is, if you're yelling at me, I'm going to disengage. I'm not going to have a conversation with you if you're yelling at me. And he can't say, well, this is just how I am when I'm angry. Okay, well then let's take a moment for you to decompress. And then when you're ready to communicate with me in a respectful way, then we can continue this conversation. Because I believe, Cynthia, that even in anger, he should still demonstrate respect and love. Okay. Let's talk about what the research says. Women with higher authentic self-respect, not performative confidence, but genuine regard for their own worth, sets clearer limits in relationships and report significantly higher relationship satisfaction. Not because they found different partners, because their clear limits produce different behavior from the same partners. Self-respect functions as both a filter for what enters the relationship and a behavioral shaper for what is allowed to remain. When you are a woman of confidence, that's why I did that video that they want us to shrink, because they are attacking your self-respect. You know what your boundaries are. You know what your standards are. You're not asking for too much. You are not too much. The research says that women that have self-respect set clearer limits and report higher relationship satisfaction. So the next time someone is talking to you about settling or accepting problematic behavior, or that's just how men are, they're minimizing it, or they're excusing the behavior, don't allow it. Don't allow it. Okay? The limit is not just for you. The limit shapes his behavior, not because you are managing him, because all people calibrate their behavior to what is accepted. When you accept less is offered. When you clearly and consistently communicate what is not acceptable, many partners, not all, but many, adjust. Not because they were secretly capable of better and withholding it, now some are, but because the structure you created required better of them. And a man who loves you, a man who cares for you, is going to be eager to hear how you want to be treated. You're giving him essentially the cheat code to loving you, to take care of you. And this is a healthy man. An unhealthy man will use it to be neglectful and abusive. Okay, there are some men that will directly withhold what you're asking for, and with that, then you have to make a decision. Am I willing to remain in the relationship when I know that he is deliberately withholding what it is that I need, want, and desire, or is this a relationship that I have to walk away from because I am not being respected here? So let me go back with what I started the video. How did you become the girl that tolerated this ish? You became her gradually in moments too small to confront individually. You becoming the woman that tolerates this is really supported not by the research, but by some of the talking points that you've seen on social media, some of the advice that you may have gotten from clergy, some of the advice that you have gotten from trusted individuals in your life. There is a normalization of the dehumanization and disrespect of women in relationships. You became her because there is an absence of a framework in your relationship that told you that you are not required to ask for something differently. Let me tell you what I know from my own experience. The moment I asked the first question, how did I become her to tolerate this ish? Was not the end of something, it was the beginning, because the question meant I could still see the woman that I was, the woman I had been before all of the adjustments, the woman that would not have accepted that previously, the woman who was not willing to sacrifice herself for the relationship. Somehow, somewhere, the relationship became more important than my self-respect. That's when I became the girl that tolerated that ish, because I no longer valued self-respect. And I didn't have the research here that I'm presenting to you today. I too listened to the things that were taught to me in church, the things that my mothers or the girlfriend said. I didn't have the research. I didn't have the science. I didn't have the words to really name what was happening in my relationship. And because of that, like you, I was tolerating a lot of things that I shouldn't have. And let me be real honest. Many of us are tolerating things in our relationship that man never would. he never would tolerate some of the things that you tolerate in the relationship. I want you to know that a relationship doesn't need you to be harder. It needs you to be honest about what it is that you need, want, and desire, right? If this video has described a moment that you have had in your relationship, or you like, Samithia, this is what I've been thinking for the past couple of years, I need you to register for the Girls Need Boundaries course that's going to be on July the 18th at 1 p.m. Eastern. Even if you can't attend, maybe you're working or you have another obligation, but you want the replay, please be sure to go ahead and register. I plan on presenting case studies and also the framework that I have created and used, and I'm going to give it to you. I have a couple of worksheets so that you will be able to work in real time and work in the future, right? Because one thing about boundaries is that you're always going to have to teach people your boundaries so people don't have you messed up. And you know what? From this day forward, you what? Not going to be tolerating this ish. You're not going to tolerate the disrespect, the lack of care, the lack of concern, the minimizing of your hopes, your needs, your dreams, and your desires. All right? Well, this is Heal the New Sexy. My name is Samithia.